Wow, what more can I say? It's just phenomenal. Let's play the Void. Last time we met Una, who's either a disturbing headcase or a worrying nutjob. She did give us some direction, namely all of them, and you can hear by that sound that Mantid is suckling away at the pangolin reservation that we'll need to go to later. Besides, I can't go there yet. The web glyph was not in Una's chamber, so it must be in one of these two. Patriarch is on his way to the moorage garden. He'll be feeding for a bit and I can't interrupt him, so I may as well go to the hump mine, like a mound or what's found on a humpback whale. Why did I feel the need to clarify that? I'm taking out the gold that I use for Una, since I don't really have any other sources for it right now. There's unfortunately no chance that the scraps in my cave garden will survive the time it'll take me to get over there. And I'm putting pretty much everything I've got left into me, since I'm coming up to a fight, and a fight requires as many variants of colour as you can manage. There's just no way of knowing which ones will be more useful.
I don't have much colour left. Please feed me.
Ole chiming in occasionally, trying not to nag but making sure that we remember that she's there every once in a while. My incentive could be completely different if she pestered me like an abused spouse. This chamber isn't very big, it seems far more mine-like, or as if it used to be a quarry. Bastion and possibly phalanx look like they had some previous purpose. These girders could have been used as excavation scaffolding. One of them has snapped off and fallen, lies here precariously between these two ledges. Which initially led me to believe there was some odd physics puzzle used to get the heart up there. But that's not the case, there's just this big wall leading down to a hump of rock. Seems to be spreading out with fingers like the hand of a golem trying to claw its way across the chamber. There's something to be said for the chamber's gradual increase in functionality and movement towards realism, but there'll be far more of that later. For now there's a firefly and I'm gonna get it! Well, I'll make an eye on it and make a move when it stops. It looks like the heart should be accessible from here. You should be able to climb up the rock face and maybe squeeze in between a gap between the wall and the girders. Make your way across the metal shelf, but you can't. If you go up too high, you end up back in the void, which is something unusual. It's moving a bit fast for me, and I want to show off a different catching technique, which may only work when there's only one of them scuttering around on the flat ground, but even so. So if we want to get the heart, there is one thing we do have, and that is the magnet glyph. Oops, almost drew that there. There you go, fairly easy to attract it with a globule whilst being far enough away not to startle it. I don't think that dropping a larger globule helps you attract them from any further away. So I could stand underneath in front of the heart around about here, and since the magnet glyph rises so long as it exists, if you put enough in, it would rise high enough to drag it off its perch. But that's quite a large waste, and there are some vague paths dotted into this cliff face which allow you to climb up most of the way. This is about the highest point you can get to. Pretty much one jump from here and I will be removed. So now I could put 10 droplets into my magnet rather than 80, but I'll put some more in just for kicks. Ooh, listen to it chirp as it whizzes past. That's a happy heart. Sometimes the heart will collide with the glyph, causing the physics objects to fly off at a wild tangent. Sometimes they'll somehow end up following each other around, like a coupling of butterflies, for a bit of sickly sweet imagery. Hang on a sec. Your heart from its pedestal I have shaken, its dead weight dropped to reawaken, just one of many I have taken, devoured with a side of bacon. That's at least as good as some of the rubbish love song lyrics we get nowadays, right?
Hysteric. This glyph charges the air with color and creates a ring around its creator. Everything surrounding the ring is then scalded with color, while the creator remains protected. The more color used in creating the glyph, the greater the damage will be, and the larger the area affected.
Hysteric? Sounds like I should do something slightly more interesting. As it is, it's pretty much an upgrade to the original shield glyph. And this is not the web glyph, so we're going to have to look in the garden. The exit was right here, so I took it. There is a small area underneath the giant hand, but nothing ever appears there. It's not very interesting. Just a small little crevasse to get stuck in. I'll head there straight away. The brothers don't mind you watching the meet. And if I go in, I'll only see the brother in the chamber that he normally speaks to us from. Oh, that was perfect timing. I won't see him speaking to me from the chamber that I'm about to enter. It would take far too much time to insert every single brother into every single chamber, and there are several ones where it wouldn't work at all, so this is completely understandable. The brothers have 3 different areas between them anyway.
In here, such.
I don't know what you're thinking. You can't pass the trials. Warden has already decided everything. But you're right. You should fight to the very end, and the pangolin must be killed as soon as possible. It consumes color. When there were only a few predators, we could close our eyes to the mischief. But a giant like this one could drain color from the entire void.
This chamber presents a load of interesting questions. There's a boat just lodged in here, as if it's been driven up by outsiders. Abandoned, it's gone all rusty a bit. There's a similar sort of ghostly shipwreck feel on the shores of Uta's chamber, but this is something much larger in scale. You can imagine actual people getting off, wandering around, succumbing to the void's complete lack of habitability. The easiest way to explain it is probably the void trying to drag in something from the real world, from a memory perhaps. It's given it the same sheen of decay as everything else. Maybe it only knows how to visualize things in a dead state, which for a boat would be washed up on a shore in shallow water. You can't explore along the deck any further than I went, by the way. You see how these portals appear at this area on the lower level? Well, if you go beyond that on the ship, then you'll enter the void uncontrollably. And there's the heart we need. It's interesting how Master Color knew that it was in here before we found it. Oh, sorry, I'm blinding you here. I'm trying to show that there is another route to get here if you enter from a different angle. Let me block that out for you.
Web. This glyph creates a flying parasitic golem. When the golem locates a living being, it attaches itself to the victim and begins feeding on it. If the victim is then devoured by another creature, the web golem explodes inside the predator's stomach, doing massive internal damage. The more color used in drawing the glyph, the greater the amount of damage done.
And there's an M for web. I'm sure you can imagine how I'm supposed to deal damage to the pangolin now. I can't attack it from the outside, so I need to attach a web to one of the jumpers, hopping around its chamber, so when it naps it and starts feeding upon it, I can attack it from the inside. Getting eaten yourself by the pangolin and trying to hammer away at it does not work. as I hope anyone who played this should find out the hard way. I'm not going to go up those stairs, they are very infuriating to traverse. And here's the trap for this chamber, which makes slightly more sense than the one in the caves. That was a log, whereas this is a big boulder with pointy, spiky bits, some sort of rose shape in it, jagged thorns, could actually cause some damage if you stumbled into it. The one in the first garden, I don't think I actually managed to show that off, but it was activated with spikes of rock hanging down over the entrance, so that works too. I haven't grown any trees in the moorage since I need all the colour I have at the moment to fight with, but I'll keep that in mind. Montgolfier is just sitting over Uta's chamber. That's a bit disturbing. And Patriarch has come back into his home. He is Una's sister. Patriarch is one of the most calm brothers, and Una is completely crazed, so that's an odd mix. If the sister's age matches that of the brothers, then it could be that Una has been around for as long as the clearly very elderly Patriarch, and has subsequently gone as mad as you can see. As a result, or maybe they just put the most patient brother with the most frenzied sister. Depends how much thought they put into the arrangement. So here's how the web glyph works. It'll be easiest to see it in action here. The maximum you can put into it is 40 droplets.
You will die because of this.
It homes in on the nearest predator and attaches themselves, making them all glowy and very easily recognisable. The webs have unlimited range and they don't wear off, so the glyph I just did will be put to use at some point. I tend to play this chamber a bit loosely. The left hand side is far safer than the right, so I'm going to be sticking around this branch for my base of operations. The hopper I tagged is heading along the upper branch, which is where the pangolin is most likely to strike, so this is working perfectly. Though from what I've seen, the predators don't follow a standard patrol. Sometimes they'll double back on themselves. There are many forks in the path, so often they'll go somewhere else. And mine's just about to be snatched up now. Hello. I'll dodge out the way of this one. If I had tagged that predator that just teleported, then you would see it is an actual teleport, and it remains tagged when it lands somewhere else. And that's done a sizable bit of damage, considering I didn't use its weakness, as indicated by the highlighted colour on the wheel in the top right hand corner. And now I'm using pretty much the only tactic you can do to improve this fight. When it snatches up something, you have time to run up to it and tag the predator it's currently eating with its current weakness.
You're wasting your soul.
And then run back before it grabs you, and that's why variety is very important in any fight you encounter. I'm being blocked now, so that's a waste of a jumper. Most of these are going to get eaten eventually, in all honesty. It takes so long to do it, you need to put so much into it. Sometimes it can even take 2 attempts, leaving and re-entering on another cycle when the predators will have respawned. All in all, it's just slightly more efficient, but you could say there was cheese involved. The other end of this upper branch looks quite nice to hang out too. There's a nice lattice of branches that you can stand on to keep out the way of the predators, but he can grab you from there, so it's not that good, and when he swings he often ends up facing in the opposite direction, so it's harder to get the web attached. He's mostly facing away here, but it should be okay. I can either curve it round him, or if it hits him right in the back, then it will phase straight through him. The only thing to watch out for is it getting flicked away by his mandibles. If a web gets flicked too far away, it will either become out of range, if that's possible, or it might just get stuck in the geometry. I'm not sure, but sometimes it doesn't quite come back.
Die because of this.
That was a good view, and at about half health his outer wheel comes off. If I was being excessively conservative, I could keep attacking him with small amounts until his health was just low enough to knock his wheel off, since any excess he put into that particular blow is completely wasted. To put it another way, if he had 1 droplet's worth of damage to go until his wheel went off, and I did 40 damage to him, then 39 would be wasted. So, on some fights it's integral that you are very careful with how much you put into each blow when you get to that sort of stage. And now that only its inner wheel remains, it will only be vulnerable to gold, so I've been storing it up until I could use it most effectively now. That's going to phase through it. Hopefully this works since it's relatively far away. I have no idea what just happened. The gold has gone completely to waste. I suspect that it attached itself to the Predator just a moment before the Predator ceased to exist, and after the point at which it could deal damage to the pangolin. So it did that rather than attaching itself to another Predator in the vicinity. What are the odds? That was an unfortunate break. The pangolin is really cheating death on this time through. There are still plenty of predators around. I'm convinced not only that I can complete it on this time through, but that if I went around applying web glyphs to all of them, it would be a waste in the end. Although there's no question of attacking vulnerabilities at the moment. It would help if the aura of randomness permeating this chamber hadn't forced all of the predators over to one side. It's like having all the air molecules in a room move over to one place, leaving you suffocating. On a much smaller scale, of course. I'm sorry if I've offended anyone who has a fear of that occurring. I used to have a fear that the world's gravity would invert itself without any notice. I always made sure I was within arm's reach of a fence or a lamppost. Alright, we're back in business. It's still worth using the small amount of gold that I still have. I have some cause to believe that the health bar does not accurately reflect the amount of health that the pangolin still has. The same amount of damage seems to take more off as you get towards the end. This may be there to reflect it becoming weaker, or it may just be a bit of odd stretching. Either way, I think that one more attack should finish it off. I've been blocked. It's like they're working together, like it's some sort of minion. Usually this fight goes a lot better. My timing has been way off. It's not my fault, of course. I think this fight was created to allow you to revel in a sense of frustration. The game has spent its entirety so far instilling in you a sense of patience, and acknowledging that sometimes you have no control over what is going on. It's actually nice to see that it extends to epic fights with giant tree-dwelling beasts. It's rare to get that kind of plot gameplay consistency. The music is excellent though. It's very wild. It feels like nature is mocking me, and I don't care at all because it's got this underlying rhythm that you have to respect. It fits in with the way these branches are all reaching out, clasping together, forming odd twists and shapes, showing very literally how everything feeds into each other. It's really the best way they could have made something like this. It's like a series of corridors surrounding a cortex, which I'm sure I've seen in other games, except it's transposed very neatly to make you feel like you're way up in the canopy. It's not the sort of area you could stumble upon and know instantly that it was an arena. Alright, I'm here. I'm gonna make sure I choose a colour that I still have 40 droplets of. Oh, solid, I'll just use violet. Oh, come on! It's almost poetic. This is a treetop train wreck. Well, hopefully this mistakenly tagged predator will circle itself around. It was going the right way, at least. I don't think any of the others will be getting in the way, so naive as it is, I still have hope. Glorious. There we go. Just about worked out. And it did virtually no damage. I don't know why. I really don't have any explanation. This is a horrible display. I'm going to use some crimson next time. Are you quite finished? There we go. Final showdown, face to face. And what a large face you have.
You will die because of this.
I think that did it. Now I'd better get off this branch. Oh. You see all those droplets up there? That is my reward. That is supposed to keep me going for quite some time after defeating the pangolin. This has never happened before. I'm gonna go back in and see what's happening. Surely they can't be gone for good. Outstanding. That is an all too fitting end. Well, as evidenced by the fact that you're watching this, I'm going to keep it as it is. I have messed around, I've put up a poor show, I've cheesed it slightly, and as a result I have completely crippled myself and been denied, I don't know, maybe a couple of hundred droplets. It's going to be hell digging myself out of this ditch, so that should be fun to watch. Oh, don't do that. I don't need that right now. If you did this yourself, I would strongly suggest redoing the whole fight, but I'm going to keep going and see what happens. The pangolin, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I know where I'm heading next. The pharynx mine is quite full, so I'm going to go there and try and recuperate my losses. There's a couple of sisters I can go to, but I have the amber and violet that Ava needs. Plus she's the only one that will open the way to two sisters, so I could do worse than to give myself some options. Other than that, I'm back to waiting for the brothers to tell me what to do next. I suppose it's too much to expect a reward of any sort. Never mind one that would actually mitigate the damage. Yeah, I can make this work. It's full of violet, which I don't need any more of, but it's also got some azure and some emerald, which I am now quite short on. And unfortunately, unlike most other times, it will be a deciding factor in what sister I choose to go to next. So my options are a bit more limited than usual, but I can pass all this violet and amber through me in time for Ava, so at least for the time being I can pretend like I'm in full control, even while I'm harping on like a remorseful gambler. So now that the fight's over, I may as well end it here. Back to business as usual, as soon as Echo no doubt makes light of my predicament. Or, as I'd marginally prefer, ignores it completely.
This is a desert on the threshold of death. I think it's under the surface you came from, but it's not deep. All around is emptiness, and hunger is the rule here. Unbearable hunger. There is no worse fate than to cease to live, but all is not lost. This isn't your death, and you can leave this place of the dead. Up above on the surface, deathly emptiness does not exist. It's warm and bright. Life rules there. A full, complete, colorful life. There are so many colors, an insane, unimaginable amount. Here we exist. Up there, they live. It's time, sisters. Shall we all ascend together?
She wishes it were that easy. And she'll still want violet. I don't even have close to the amount that she needs. Never mind for now. There are an unimaginable amount of colours available on the surface. Did they used to be in the void? 40 sisters died, which is an awful lot of combinations of colour. But if there were more colours back then such a thing could be feasible. That would be really nice, but I can't afford to be that optimistic right now. These are all pretty much empty. My cave garden has a tiny bit, but as I predicted at the start, it's going to get sucked up before I can get to it. Just checking around a bit more, making myself feel bad. Echo has disappeared. I might get very little opportunity to hear her sultry desires. Enough of that, eyes ahead, Ava next time, losing more colour and getting a shoulder to cry on.